It's a pleasure to meet you. It's a pleasure to meet you. My name is Cy Craft, and I'm part of the CG Creative Studio here in Southern California. And not sure how much you know, but we've been tasked with kind of an overall brand audit and strategy on a way to move forward in terms of messaging different components of Darktrace's, I guess, presentation overall to not just domestic UK, but to the world, US, etc. I'd like to introduce you very quickly to Jonathan Forstead. He is our CMO, and also Ellen, who is our VP of Communications, and our big parts of the team. Phoenix Ray also has been helping us out on the back end, just keep everything organized and clean on the tech side. So love to hear, we only have an hour, so I'd love to dive right in if that's okay with you.
Of course.
Realize relatively new with the firm, and would just love to hear a little bit about your background.
Yeah, so, well, lovely to meet you all. Thanks very much. And, very much looking forward to working with you guys. So obviously, I don't know whether anyone's talked to you a little bit about my background, and what I've been. So I have an unusual scenario, although I only joined the company in August from an executive perspective, but I was on the board and, for a period of time before that. So I actually invested in the business back in 2015. So I was part of the Series A round. I then joined the founder shareholder in 2017, very early that year, sat on the board through all of 18, 19, 20, and then ran the IPO process, at the board level. So I chaired that IPO committee. And then just as I thought I'd escape, Poppy and Nicole grabbed me with both hands as I was trying to head out the door, and brought me into the role that I've got now. So I'm theoretically head of corporate development, which, basically people tend to think about as M&A, but actually really I work very closely with Poppy and Nicole and Jack, really planning everything month 12 through to month 36. That's basically my mousetrap. The business is extremely good at executing, for the next 12 months. And my job, I think I see it as, laying the tracks so that when the steam train comes charging down at high speed, we've got them all laid before we get there, so we don't have any problems. So, that's the role. My background is I spent most of my career as an investor, as a buy-side fund manager covering technology stocks really from the mid-90s, onwards. So the reason I got involved with Darktrace is I knew a number of the early shareholders and investors, and got introduced to the story very early on.
That's wonderful. And it's exciting to hear that you've been a part. I wasn't aware that you were part of the firm for so long and a part of the process. So, your responses will be invaluable today. Some of our questions will sound pretty high level and basic, but that's the point. We want to, really dig into what it feels like and sounds like to potential customers, to the layman overall from a real insider's point of view, but really pull out and simplify our messaging as much as possible. So let me just ask a really easy question. How you describe Darktrace to, I guess, a new friend at the cocktail party? How do you describe very, very shortly why you invested and why this means so much to you, has been such a big part of your life so far?
Sure. So how I describe the company, which is different to why I joined and why I invested, but how I describe the company is, this is AI applied to the problem of cybersecurity, and the idea being that the entire rest of the industry tends to be focused on understanding attacks and understanding the way you might come in and try and exploit a vulnerability within the business. And we sit in completely diametrically opposite scenario where we sit there and try and understand you, self. And in understanding you and understanding self, we can understand what's normal, and therefore we can identify something that's not normal, irrespective of what that not normal is, whether that's a malicious insider, account hijack, a completely zero-day attack, or a misconfiguration, or whatever that happens to be. And then I guess I layer on I tend to do, how do we do that? What we do is we both detect the problem, but then we respond and we write up and simplify that, from an investigation standpoint. That's how I tend to describe it.
No, that's fantastic. And you're referring to the continuous AI loop, obviously.
And yeah, I don't tend to talk about prevent and heal when I'm talking to the first time but yes, then we'll move on to prevent and heal if someone wants to go into a bit more detail as to where we're going.
Okay, I'm going to dive right into a couple of questions about the research center. Because I like what you said there. It's AI applied to cybersecurity. So what do you feel or know that the research center does overall? Is it an AI research center that is some parts of it are being applied to cybersecurity, or is it more dedicated to cybersecurity as a whole? And that's an interesting nuance that we're trying to really nail down and bullseye.
I think at their heart, they're an AI research center. I think the vast majority of the people from the pure research perspective are interested in the mathematical problems they're trying to solve, which is actually about both automating, it's automating human activity. Mm-hmm. It tends to be then applied. So if I think about it, this is pure mathematics and an applied mathematics. From a pure mathematics perspective, I think it is pure AI. What I would say is it's predominantly unsupervised learning rather than supervised learning. So there is a supervised learning element, but it is more typically, I would think about this as an unsupervised learning center. And then we tend to then apply both some supervised learning and a lot of development and sort of coding around that mathematics to then apply it to an end market. The reality is today, our end market is really very largely focused on cyber, and I suspect will be for some time, not because it can't be applied to other things, but because reality is there's such a big problem to solve here. It's such a ever changing landscape with such a massive addressable market that I kind of feel like everything else looks like a bit of a distraction. And so, yeah, but that's the way I think about it.
No, that's really insightful and helpful. Seems like there's a huge runway, as there will be with AI in general, and especially something this serious that's beyond Alexa recognizing the word dog, right? So this is much different, and that needs to be communicated. I want to ask you simply about the origin of the name Darktrace. Where in your, and of course you know, where did it stem from? And do you feel it aligns with products and services that are being, and philosophy that are being produced today?
Gosh, it's a good question. You know what? I've never asked the question. I know, I think it came about as a bit of a brainstorming exercise between some of the very early founders. Actually, I find the brand name Darktrace works, but I find it easy. It's easy to remember. I think it already has some brand equity that people understand and understand what we do. I think it's very much a cyber brand name, rather than an AI brand name. I think that's probably correct. But yeah, I don't have anything negative to say about. Oddly enough, there are areas of our branding that I feel, maybe I don't understand quite so well, but that I don't have a problem with.
Let's get into that then. So when we talk about the immune system analogies or metaphor, do you feel that's working? Do you feel that's, since that's been kind of the direction we've been going since IPO or even before, do you feel that aligns with the name and the brand and the products and the services we provide?
I absolutely do, but I think it's been polluted or damaged by a couple of areas. So I'm going to, without getting really irritatingly technical, we have the immune system, which I do think is the core engine of our AI. We have this core unsupervised learning, which I do think of as the immune system. The problem is we also have a product called the enterprise immune system, or EIS for short, which you hear talked about, which was our original product. And our original product, if you remember, was detect only and was centered in the network only. So it wasn't at that stage in email or in, SaaS environments or even in cloud. It was very much network only. And so we have this weird disconnect at the moment where we have our immune system, which really at its core is the very heart of everything we do. And if we started again, you would call the brain the immune system, I think, in one way or another, or at least it would be the data collection. Maybe it wouldn't be the brain, but it would be something like that. But then we've got this product called the enterprise immune system, which is actually our most commoditized product. It's our oldest product. It's the most commoditized. And so we do have a problem there. And when I say it's commoditized, it's not that we don't have the best detect engine in the world. It's just that even we ourselves will tell everybody. That's why we want people to buy Antigena. It's why we want them to look at all the coverage areas. Detect only in a network only environment.